Hey guys, please take the time to review as well as understand this disclaimer I'm going to give you. My name is Dontez Lindsay. I am the General Manager of Ducks Trading LLC, as well as the Lead Trainer of StockCraft. I'm not a financial advisor, nor a CPA, and the content I create is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I trade in my account, and everything I do is hypothetical in nature because it doesn't happen in your account. My experience with trading is not typical, nor does it guarantee that similar results will be obtained by you. I am merely sharing my opinion with no guarantee of gains or losses in investments. Remember, day trading can be extremely risky. You should be prepared to lose all the funds that you use for day trading. In particular, you should not fund day trading activities with retirement savings, student loans, second mortgages, emergency funds, funds set aside for purposes such as education or home ownership, or funds required to meet your living expenses. Further, certain evidence indicates that investments less than $50,000 will significantly impair the ability of a day trader to make a profit. Of course, an investment of $50,000 or more will no way guarantee a success. Please take the time to review as well as understand this disclaimer. With that out of the way, I'm going to give you a rundown of what we're going to talk about today in today's content, and that's going to be my biggest wins and biggest losses in the year that I've been trading. In addition to that, I'm going to also add in a few current events and a sneak peek at some of my current trades, just to see how I'm doing. Now, just to start you off with some statistics, it's been a year, and I'm up currently at 17K on the year. I've made a total of 135K, and I've lost 118. So, you add those together, and I'm up 17K. Now, my biggest win so far is 25K. My biggest loss is 10K. These are all in one trade. The largest percent loss I've made is 52% on one trade. Now, this trade is actually a very small trade, and that's the only reason it even got that close to losing 50% all at once. Just to throw that out there. And if anything, the 10K is actually just a very large trade that I lost like 22% on, which is like my max loss. And the reason that that's a loss in the first place is because it reached my max loss. Now, on the flip side of that, I made 25K in one trade, and that was options, which was something I'm not that familiar with, or at least when I made this, I wasn't. The largest percent win is 130% right now. This actually got up to like 240%. I just didn't click the button because at the time I was expecting returns of somewhere between 300 and 500%, because that's how much I leveraged my premium, like all the way from like $4 to like I think it was like 10, 11. At the end of the day, I ended up covering on the pullback around, it was 130%. So yeah, around like 7, 8. No, it was around 9. So, like somewhere between 7 and 9. All right, there's my largest dollar win, and there's my largest dollar loss. Now, the reason I bring this up right at the beginning is because these have a lot to do with your mental fortitude when it comes to holding a position with a lot of money. Now, when I first started, I started with the intention to build discipline, build systematic systems to improve my trading to where I wouldn't be afraid to press the button. Now, that could have been the buy button, that could have been the sell button, that could have been short, or that could have been a cover. Main thing is I just wanted to be able to feel comfortable around most brokers and just be able to execute with any amount of money. That has an expiration date when it comes to the self-respect and like loyalty you have to that specific asset class, or how much money you can specifically hold in a position before you have a lapse in judgment, is what I'm going to call it. This level of mental fortitude, it's something that you're going to have to build up over time. And if you try to rush it, that's actually where you'll end up with something closer to this 10K loss. Now, if you have a larger account, it'd be the same kind of loss to where I mentioned before. This is around like 22%, 23%. I feel glad that I made this loss now with a small account rather than learn this lesson when I have a 6-figure or 7-figure account later. The reason I made this video for biggest losses and biggest wins is because of that mental fortitude aspect of trading, and how you can go in here with ignorance is bliss kind of motto, and you can make some money. You can make some decent money just holding along and just holding until you make some money with it. That era is kind of changing because the Federal Reserve is changing policies. They're tightening monetary policy, and retail has made its name on Wall Street. And so there's a lot of traps out there now. Traps for the shorts and traps for the longs. And retail is always in a war with hedge funds and the Federal Reserve. It's gotten to the point to where the government is starting to put more bills across where you're going to be charged for your unrealized gains if the bill passes. But that's a whole different story. Main reason I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to highlight the idea of having mental fortitude and how you want to be patient. Like when you first start out trading, you don't want to do what I did. And the only reason I did what I did is because I had more problems than the average trader would. And that's just because I had entitlement problems or ego problems, and that kind of stuff. And so I'll give you a quick rundown of why I'm mentioning this in the first place. So the big green candle here is obviously the 25K. The big drawdown right here is the 10K loss. Now, if you look in the beginning, everything, it's really close to the average, or close to the mean. And that mean is 0. So these are just straight my profit and losses. Over here, you'll see the largest one I lost was 3K. Back then, I just got into trading. First 3 are losses, which is normal. I've surrounded myself with traders to where their position sizes go anywhere from like minimum thousands to like millions. And so when I see this, it gives me a very active imagination. And with this imagination, you can use this to build your ego and map out a plan in infinite variations of the trade that you want to take. And this can help you. But if you don't actually discipline yourself and discipline your imagination, it can be used against you. And so when you overanalyze a stock, or you didn't do enough due diligence to feel confident enough to hold a stock, or be able to spot the opportunity window within that pattern that you're trading in the first place, chances are you're going to cover earlier than you should. You're going to take losses larger than you should. You're going to leave a bunch of money on the table because you won't be able to hold the appropriate amount of time. But that's another story. Main thing is the first 3 to 6 months, I recommend that you just take systematic entries. You take a 5K account, like 3 to 5K, and you break that down into like 5 separate chances. Like if you have a 5K account, then just trade $1,000 at a time. Try to get $200 per win, and when you take a loss, get $100. Once you get in the swing of things, start trying to get $300 per win. Like you don't have to get it exactly. You just get it to the point to where you feel something's off, or you think the momentum's changing, or the main thing is you're trying to develop your intuition, your ability to recognize a pattern, and then the window of opportunity, and practice whatever strategy that you're using according to the bias that you're following. So in my case, I'm short bias. Pattern I like to trade during this time period was gap up short and bound short. Up until probably July, that's when I got introduced into meme stocks. And that's where AMC and GME came into my life. And now I'm scalping everything. During that time, I'm watching my friends. They're making a lot of money, and they're making it on these meme stocks. I wanted to make a lot of money, but I also understood that I had to be disciplined. And, I asked a guru, and he said, hey, you have to build yourself up there. You have to be able to hold a lot of money. And be able to stay calm, stay patient, and stay centered when it comes to the right beliefs and values around what's important in trading. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I try to handle it like everything else I handle in life. I'm like, okay, maybe it's like going to the gym. If you just lift a weight heavy enough that it pushes you, and then you just keep doing that, you're eventually going to grow a tolerance to it. Your body or your mind is going to adapt to it. The concept is there, yeah, but forcing it, it's not recommended. And then that's what happened on a GME on this day with that 10K. Now, the reason I bring this up is once I made that 10K losses after that point, like after that point of like despair, and I'm just like, I lost half my account. What am I gonna do? I need to buckle down and like, learn stuff. But after that point, everything just seemed a little less scary. As soon as I started getting small wins and get my confidence back and understood that I actually recognized the pattern, it wasn't just like my imagination. I started getting bigger in size. And then I easily recovered those losses in the next like 10 trades. And so in 1 month, I got all those profits back. I think I made $20, or is that $20? I made 20K in 1 month. I recovered half my account all the way up to 5K in the green. So that month of October, I made 4 trades, and those 4 trades put me 20K up from that point where I lost half my account. If I did something like this in the beginning, that would have been really convenient and awesome, but I didn't. I had to learn a lesson first, and I learned an expensive lesson. It would have been even more expensive if I actually had more capital in my account, because my response to the advice I was following for the other person, it was misunderstood. I only heard what he said. I didn't understand what he meant. And at the end of the day, I wasn't patient enough. And then after a long hiatus of just learning, going back to learning the basics, and then going off the confidence, I learned risk management. I learned ego management and pattern recognition, variations, and just got overall confident with my bias when it comes to my opportunity in trading. I'm talking about bias opportunity window when it comes to a pattern. I could be looking for shorts on that pattern. You could be looking for longs on that pattern. Main thing is you don't want to confuse yourself, because there's a lot of self-trust, self-respect, and ideals that you have to model in this trading. And at the end of the day, the reason I'm having this biggest losses and biggest wins video is because there's a lot of mental fortitude that goes into this. There's a lot of your imagination that you have to tame. That's the realized profits. Now we're in March. February was kind of iffy. January, slow. March, nothing ideal. I'm trying to be more disciplined and patient. At the end of the day, even though I said I'm short bias, if you look at the reports, most of my gains actually came from my longs. Yeah, I have 18K on my longs, and I'm down $500 on my shorts. Now, does this mean I'm a bad short seller? No. It just means I short more often, but I have so much undisciplined trades that my shorts gains don't outweigh my shorts losses. But when I take a long, I only go after the longs that I know are safe. And I did it to the point where I've made 18K. And so if you just think purely like logically, if I stop being as undisciplined on my shorts, I can already increase fundamentally from the bottom. And so I can review all those bad trades I had and just look at why did I have them? And I've already done that. Now, making it applicable, that depends on the person. In my case, I built good habits by having like systematic trades of, $1,000, aiming for that 20%, 15%, 30%, and then taking, systematic losses. If it goes to 10, I should probably cut it. Depending on the size of the trade, like pretty much just have a rubric. Like there's a trade, there's a max loss for that trade, there's a quality to that trade, there's variations to the pattern, and then once the pattern's broken, just get out. You want to have a goal at the start of your trading, not just a simple goal, I want to make this amount of money. Just be like, I have a belief that these are the things I should value in trading. It shouldn't be the money. It shouldn't be, whether you're following a person like with 100% accuracy. At the end of the day, you want to grow where it matters. And that's pretty much inside. And also, on paper. And when I say on paper, that means like you want to make a plan. And then you want that plan to keep adding value to the plan, because that's going to be a recipe that's going to end up improving your trading later. And the more you can embody the best concepts and characteristics of that plan, the better a trader you're going to be. But doing that whole process and going through this whole journey, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Your job is to be able to have enough risk management, which I pretty much coin as like prevention of your account being depleted. So pretty much survival. You're going to need a max loss. You're going to need to not follow anybody. You're going to have an opinion. So you have to be biased, whether you're long or short, or you think this stock's going to the moon. Reality will prove you wrong or right. You just want to put your money where your mouth is and then adapt accordingly. Make sure you record, and then everything will work out eventually if you survive. Now, that probably sounds all really horrible or hard to follow. So I made a little script. There you go. Now, we'll go over this. So, main thing I wanted to, go over was I had a 25K max win. Had a 10K max loss. This gives me, a lot of confidence and a lot of ego. Like now, my next goal when it comes to big wins, I want to beat this 25K. When it comes to this big loss, I want to make sure it stays under 10K. Anything above that, it actually makes me really uncomfortable, which is, obvious. But the reason I say uncomfortable is because if I get to a point where I'm too uncomfortable, like taking like something like 3 times, 4 times this kind of loss, I might have a lapse in judgment that might make me change my plan. Okay, now with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about my current events, where right now I'm in a options position to where it's a very large position. I have 61. No, that's a lie. I have 65K in one position, and it's a long position for SPY. And I'm underwater by like 70% right now. And so my unrealized gain has gotten to the point when it went up to 460 and I got in at like 420, and it's gotten down to like 83% at one time. And during that time that it went down there, I was down a full 84%. Now with that, you can see now I'm down only 62%. The main reason I brought this up is because I got into this position back in the end of February. Now we're April 5th, and I got into this position February 25th, like somewhere around there. During that time, I came up max like 40%. And the amount of money I had in there was something like 35K at the time. The higher the stock went against me, the more I'm very confident that there's a lot of political events that are lined up in a way that's going to bring this back down. And I'm still confident that it's, going to go back down. But being able to hold this while looking at the unrealized gains every day, you wake up and see that you're down just a little bit more, especially with options where it's really hard to price everything. It's stressful. And so that 10K loss that you saw before, it only helps like a little bit to minimize how I feel about the unrealized loss, because I still feel confident that the stock is going to go down. And then since I took that large loss before, that's the only reason I feel even a little bit okay to take something close to double that loss, or like something close to that amount of loss. Well, if you look at the unrealized gains now, you go to my total exposure. I have about 25K here. Remember, my total exposure is 65K. So that means I'm down 40K right now. That's 4 times the amount of my max loss. Not my max loss, my largest loss. And going into this option, I was already willing to risk half, whole, or at least a third. Because I was that confident that the market's going to go down. And a lot of other people were too. But the only reason I mention this is because when it comes to biggest losses, biggest wins, unrealized and realized, they put a certain pressure on your mindset. And if you're not ready to talk about it, you could accidentally, when I say accidentally, I mean like you'll react before you actually like second guess or try to think. And you could cover your position and take a large loss. You cannot even think clearly if there's too much pressure put on you because of your beliefs. And so at the end of the day, you have to have some kind of hope, some kind of belief, something to ground you, bring back your mindset to the correct mindset according to the plan that you have. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to say with that. Last thing I'm gonna leave off with is average hold times. Now, if you go to my statistics, my average hold time is 2 hours. Now, 2 hours it's good because like I tend to trade in the morning. So if I want to make a short, I'd rather just do a gap up short, try to get at the top, get about 15 to like 25%, and then just enjoy the rest of my day, go do some stuff, wait till the end of the day comes and wait till the end of the day, record my statistics, and rinse and repeat for the next day. When it comes to my average holding time for those wins, that's where the rinse and repeat comes from. Because, I'll start the day and be like, okay, there's an opportunity. There's a gap up short. There's a bounce short. I need to get in when it shows the most momentum, because I know that momentum is not just going to stay there for me. It's going to be a moment in time, and then it's going to pull back, and then people are going to start a war and consolidate for a while. And then depending on what direction it goes, most of the time with the extension I aim for, it just cracks. If it does come back, I'll give it like 2 more tries. But after that, I'm out. But main thing is, during that whole process where it goes up, consolidates, and then spends the rest of the day going down, sometimes that could take 2 hours. Sometimes that could take 4, especially with overcrowded, large cap, large float tickers, or just a catalyst with a very convincing positive news, and people are just too stubborn to let it die. Main thing is, it could take a long time. And so when you see these average holding times, this isn't you staring at the computer the whole day. This is you just getting in where the momentum is, waiting for it to crack, and you feel safe. You walk away from the computer, or you can passively watch your position. You can even put a limit order if you feel like you need to. With shorts, they can't really put a limit order. So some people set up max losses with their broker to where, you know, if I'm down more than 2K, cut my trade for me. You can call the person and just be like, hey, I want to set this up. There's also points on TradeZero or whatever your broker's like website is. You can set up those max losses. And that's one of the things I recommend for risk management when it comes to shorts. But next thing is when it comes to average holding time for my losses, that's under an hour. Now, the reason it's under an hour is because when you're in a pattern, you're supposed to master the pattern and all variations of it. Once you guess the variation of where the pattern is potentially going to go, you also know when is this pattern going to be broken, and you're just gambling because you lost your odds, you lost your tactical position, you lost your edge. Now you're just hoping and holding that this is going to go down. That process doesn't take a lot of time to figure out, because usually what happens with that is you don't even enter until you get to a proficient amount of range or a proficient amount of like position or comfort level. Because if you aren't in a good position, you won't be able to hold it in the first place. So just having that lost time under an hour under an hour, it says a lot. Because if you're in a very bad position compared to the other traders, or you got squeezed for like however amount, you can't hold that position through all the ups and downs because you're in a bad position. And so you either went in too soon or you went into too late. In both cases, the reason you took that loss, whether it went from red to green back to red or green to red, is because you weren't patient enough. You didn't know about your pattern enough. You didn't hold it the appropriate amount of time, which in my case, minimum 2 hours, max like 4 or 5 hours, sometimes even into the next day. It all depends on your pattern. Only thing I'm really trying to get across is that lost time, it needs to be decisive. It needs to be planned out. It can have something to do with the catalyst that you're following. Like if something happened around the world on like a political scale and it just happens to be related to your ticker, it's something that you probably didn't see coming, but it could still affect your trade. And that takes away odds from your trade. And you have to be ready for that, because that's what trading is. Like anything can happen. When I hold a win, I'm trying to hold it for a long time. I'm trying to maximize my win. As soon as it becomes dangerous or it loses its trend, I'm out. And that usually takes under an hour. Other than that, that's all I really wanted to show you guys. So let's just use this as a summary. Remember, stay humble and review your trades so you can remember not only your faults, but also your strengths so you can double down on them. Because a part of that self-awareness and pattern recognition, that also includes patterns in yourself. Like when you're in a losing trade, how do you react? And then if you react in a negative way, you're going to have to figure out either how to avoid those situations or how to build a better habit or belief around that situation once you leave the situation and you can analyze it without the pressure from the situation. I hope you guys like what you saw. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.